through a strong nervous system upgrade, and we've been going through some, what I think is frontal lobe, but anyway, brain upgrades. So it's we're in this sort of constant spiraling up and moving in and out in this undulation, this flow. A lot of undoing that needs to occur in terms of our systems and structures, and especially in terms of our programs and conditions. We've been programmed to think in particular ways that don't actually serve our new way of being. This recognition that we are all a part of this connection to self, connection to one another, connection to nature, connection to the planet, and that it's a big step for humanity as a collective to recognise that we are not kingpins here. I was sitting on this, in my vision, I was sitting on a grassy hill with Jesus, and there was silence. And I said to Jesus, "What is that?" And he said, "That's peace in the Middle East." But she said that the molecular structure of a lie wouldn't be able to hold together in the new.
Welcome, my dear friends, to this Divine Love Ambassador podcast. And today I welcome a very special lady, very special friend, Sharron Martin, who has her own YouTube channels Gaia, and is an incredible being of an example of transition from being the teacher to the, what would you call yourself, psychic medium? And lots of other things. Gaia channel, painter.
Teacher on a different level, I guess.
Yeah. So welcome, Sharron. Yeah, maybe do you want to just start by just giving maybe just a little bit of your background, because you really have made this transition from the 3D, so to speak, of the, the everyday teacher within society, and then you've made this transition into obviously running your own business, but really using your, if you want to call it, more expansive gifts or intuitive gifts. Do you want to share a little bit about that, just to give people a bit of context to your background?
I will, and I think it's probably good timing for it, because we're in the time where a lot of people are going to do this, where a lot of people are going to feel, well, firstly, dissatisfied with what they're doing. That wasn't my experience. I loved what I did. But a lot of people now are going to feel a compulsion or a propulsion to move. And that may be in work or location or in relationships. But for me, I was given a shove by spirit, because I was told and I was told and I was told, and I kind of ignored them. And so I was told, you need to be doing this other work. And I ignored them. And then I got offered an opportunity and I took that opportunity, and then I still didn't do what I was supposed to go and do. And finally, I reapplied for my, because I could hear them, and I said, "Okay, look, I'm going to apply for my old job, and if I don't get it, then I'll do what you say." And in my head, I'm thinking, that'll never happen. I will get my old job because I was good at it, and they, they had told me that. And so I applied for my old job, and I got shortlisted, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. But I didn't get the job.
You know what I love about just what you've just shared already is that you actually loved what you were doing, and
Yeah.
you didn't, because sometimes, yeah, people don't enjoy their job and yet are holding on to it. But it's interesting when you actually really did enjoy what you were doing. And I can relate that to the retreat and something that was a dream. And then like how challenging, that's a whole different level of challenge to
Oh, yeah. I
transition
fought
out
it.
of something that you actually really, really enjoyed, and to, in a way, make this identity shift, because it really is this incredible shift or up leveling of identity to release that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right that it is such a theme that's requires more awareness. so that we can allow ourselves more grace within it. Because yeah, for my own last
Oh,
few months, and years, it's challenging. It's really challenging. So yeah, if you
well,
want to talk into a bit more of,
you've moved out of a locality, of a base, of something that you built and loved, and like developed, grew into something new and prosperous and beautiful and rewarding. And then all of a sudden, where do you link into? And that's the challenge for people. It's like, how God has shown it to me is that we're being rearranged on the chessboard, or that the other analogy is the pinball machine, and that we would, the lever would be pulled back, released, and all of the balls would be rearranged. And that's the process that we're in. So a lot of people are now, each person being one of those metal balls, are landing in their new space. So
and
we're
I just want to acknowledge the intermediate space of the unknown, and even myself, I don't know where those balls are landing.
no,
Or even to find, because of what was previous was such a dream and such a passion, and very, it was heart guided as well, and it
yeah,
got me to utilize a lot of my gifts and talents at the time, and to explore those potentials. But then to move out of that, some of the challenge I'm finding is, what is my deep passion? What is it? I have lots of ideas, but it's like, okay, I can be busy with these things, but what is actually the deeper soul passion? And I still feel like I'm kind of unraveling what was, to discover what that may be. And it may be
yeah,
different than what
that's
my
really,
mind can come up with,
well,
even.
yeah, and that, I want to tell you, is the challenge, to drop out of the mind, to move into the heart and live in the now moment. And then in each now moment, you'll be guided to the next. And then all of a sudden, you'll be somewhere new, or you'll meet somebody who makes a proposal, and you'll be, oh, yeah, that really fits with what I want to do.
Mhm.
And so it's this is really part of what humanity is in amidst now, is this shifting from the mind, because humanity has worked purportedly successfully in the mind, and even the word success to me is an old paradigm word, but to be soft, to drop into the heart space, to be with the body, to be guided in each moment, and to, as soon as you're into worry about it, as soon as you're into, um, thinking about next week, you're out of alignment with the way that we are, in a way, being uh, unpatterned and repatterned, to be working with the now, because the quantum is now moment. And so this is our journey from the head to the heart, from the goal setting, striving, achieving mentality, to the heart centered softness of being present with self,
Mm.
and then
And
just being
it's like,
guided.
in that nothing is outside of the self, because it's like it's drawing us deeper. And I can see this within myself, and just exactly as you said, and I've shared on social media and with you, of course, a lot of pain in my body the last 10 days. But if I go back previously to it, I can see how my mind was projecting into the future with limitation and lack and concerns, and going back into some old stuff, because of this unknown place, trying to conjure up something to give me some sense of security, I guess, but in an old way, rather than like these last 10 days, it's really brought me home to understanding again, and hopefully
Yeah,
not
we do
needing
it as
not
well.
needing not not needing the teacher of pain to help me with this understanding again, to realize just how important to really direct my energies, direct my thoughts, and to up level up level my sense of self, so that I'm not allowing these old aspects of self to take the helm, if that makes sense. Going from an old reference point, which is not applicable now. And also, what I'm realizing in myself, and just for the collective as well, is like how important our daily practices are again, so that we can be in the here and the now and ground ourselves into it so that we can receive the blessings, rather than actually push them away because we're not actually feeling worthy or deserving or capable or whatever it is, to allow that level of abundance, of joy, of freedom, of being taken care of. I think that's
Yeah.
a huge one, and it certainly has been for me. And just without having to earn it through a job or through, other people's approval or whatever it is that may have been the structure that we had taken upon us, I guess, through the the rules and regulations of what we decided and believed into previously, to get our needs met and so forth. So it's like collapsing that, and I know the structures are collapsing around that,
Mm.
so that we can operate in this very different way. So the title I came up with, that I put on this session today, that just came to me as I was sending you the link, was navigating current energies.
Oh,
So
yes.
what else do you have to share around navigating current energies of transition and re-knowing ourselves in a very different energy, frequency, consciousness, and way of being on this planet as a human?
To breathe, to connect to the breath, to allow the breath to guide you through your body as well, to be very much in the body. So placing hands on heart to breathe and feel in there, to feel into the energetic flow that sits in there, and to just like float through sense in a sensory way through your body, to start with that, to feel your way, to see where the contractions might be. So in that very sort of physical sense, to become present with self in the morning as a practice, as a process, and then to ground into the earth and to be in the noticing of what comes up that's old, because we are being asked to release all of the old, everything about our way of doing and being is being asked to be released. And that's a scary construct for people. It's like being mid-air and being asked to take your shirt off. It's you're not quite sure where you're landing yet. And that's kind of where we are as humans, to be letting the old go, and so we're invited to sit in the space of knowing that all is well. And that's
Mm.
not an easy place to be either. And
And
just
because it takes trust, it takes
takes trust.
trust. And
Takes
a lot of those old energies has to come up to the surface to be reconciled or completed, where where there was energies where survival mechanism kicked in or whatever, to create a different way to survive those moments, we'll say, and memories, that has to come to conclusion or reconciliation or completion, so that a deeper connection and deeper trust can be there to drop in and to lean in. And I love what you said about hands on the body to ground, but is that dropping deeper in? And the other thought that came to me is like, so that the ego or the separated identity isn't running the show. It has to really soften into the deeper being, higher self, whatever we want to call it, that place that knows its connection to the earth and to all that is, and can feel it goes beyond a concept or a theory or belief even, but it's a feeling and a knowing. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, and it's about being okay in this now moment. And then that leads us to the next now moment. And then that is really our training for being in the quantum,
So,
one breath at a time.
yeah. So since you just mentioned the quantum, how would you explain the quantum for people? What do you mean when you say that helps us to get ready for how we operate in the quantum?
Well, I would say that I can't scientifically explain it. So if you are a very
Show me the
left-brained,
proof. Knock on wood.
you might want to find someone else to tell you. But I would say it's the space. We're in the kind of, in a way, we're in the liminal space right now. We're in this in-between space. So we're having some higher dimensional experiences, frequencies, and flows through our body as our body is being upgraded so that we can operate more in the quantum. But to operate in the quantum is to be beyond the mind. To operate in the quantum is to be in present moment existence. And so where we are right now is in the letting go of all that binds us to the old. And there's a pretty good group of beings who are in, well, battle, I suppose, really. But, they're trying to hold on to our staying in that space. And so there's some upset beings on the planet because many of us are moving out of their control or already have been for quite some time. But it's like the gates have been opened, and now there's I would say, if you think about a river with some barriers on the river to perhaps create even, like a dam. So let's say the beavers have built a dam in the river, and they do that to create a space for themselves, and the dam is starting to move apart, to fall apart, so the flow is increasing. And no matter what the beavers are doing now to patch up the holes of what the flow has created in their little home, it's about to give way, and the flow coming through is getting stronger and stronger. And really, that's us as humanity moving into the fifth dimension as a collective. So that's one part of it. When we are in that space, is that what how would I say it? It's like what each of us creates is like having a collective vote. So if I am sitting in the space of calling in love and being in a space of love, and then there are other people around me who are doing the same, and then the people around them are doing the same, it's like this building of this collective experience, and that becomes like the collective vote, and then everybody gets to have that experience. I guess that would be one way of saying it. And that will be how we also let go of the old systems and rebuild. So we're in this liminal space at the moment. I'm showing that by the end of 2027 that we will have all of our new structures and systems in place. So of course that means between now and then that the old will go, but it's not going to be like everything's broken down at the same time, because we still need to function as communities, and that's going to become a stronger way of being, where we're more collaborative, more in the space of knowing that we are supported and cared for and resourced. So we'll shift out of that lack mentality. We'll be in the knowing that there's this infinite supply. And that's, with the breath, there's, we don't ever go to, I wonder if there'll be air today. And so this, we can just apply that to everything, really. So we're moving into that space. That to me is part of the quantum. So we'll do it in these incremental sections and segments, building this new collective way of being, which will bring us into, firstly, ease. I want to say that's the beginning level, is that we'll come into ease. People will feel at peace, and then you could call that kind of this neutrality space, and then we'll build into higher levels of bliss and love and unconditional being. I don't know if that answers it or not.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, some people want things to go quicker, and at the same time, things are shifting and changing so quickly. But then to be able to adapt and um, what's the word? Acclimate to to really grounding in a new way of being. So one of the things that came to me as you were speaking there, like as you said, the breath, but it's really like, I feel like for so many of us as well, and I can definitely speak for myself, and reaching out to you last week and in the depth of being in a lot of pain, and a lot of that pain is the places that came from places that were closed down within me as well, to open up my heart and open up my vulnerability, and to know that, like you did so beautifully with me. And I'm so grateful, to be held in that, to know that we can be held in whatever is unfolding as a way of opening into greater, I want to say greater trust within and greater
Mm.
trust without, and what I mean is, like, within communities, that we can start to really, and of course it's not going to come without, unless we have it within ourselves as well, to extend that outwards. But that's what I kind of feel like we're like relearning, if you like, or rediscovering, or in what ways can we branch out into community. And it seems like there's a lot of different communities and pockets and exploration of what that may feel like, look like in this technological age, globally networked. And yeah, exploring what those kind of connections can be like, how they can translate to, I guess, honor the individuality, honor the collective, and whatever those needs are, our requirements, will say, to live a joyous, prosperous, fulfilling life. I like that word fulfilling instead of success, like deeply fulfilling, deeply juicy, deeply appreciative, and joyful. And there's nothing like human connection, really, for the joy of the spirit of being here in this body. So yeah, so it's like what you're talking about, 2027, and it's like it can seem a little way off, but it's like I can see how we also need this time to make it a gentler transition, and even though there's a lot going on, whereas, some part of us go, oh, come on, let's move into this new, or but it's like, yeah, at the same time, we're here for the journey, we're here for this transition. On the higher levels, it's like we didn't just come here to jump over this. This is epic what we're moving through, and to unpack every jewel that may be there, to really have the deeper knowing of, if you like, for the greater collective as well, within our own, whether we call it healing journey, or transformational journey, or reconciliation journey, or integration journey, from awakening to self-realization, ascension. There's just so many elements. And then with that, to just show up every day as a human, as you talk about interacting with your garden and interacting with each other. And, it's a lot of the simple stuff as well on the human level. And I feel like that's the new placement of the ego, is like when it can sit back into the heart and the inner being, and just enjoy the ride, enjoy the adventure, enjoy the opportunity to be in this tactile realm of experience.
Yes,
uh,
and to be in such allowance,
mm,
that the recognition that we may all do this in different ways, in different orders, in different timing, and that's okay.
mm,
We don't need to be the person holding the beating stick saying, come on, everybody, because I don't know, I like to use the word undulation. It's because it's that gentle. It's this, and I will unfold this today, and maybe you'll unfold that part. And as we do that, that allows somebody else to unfold something, and they might do that in a different way.
mm.
But
Yeah,
it's this.
you're like
Mhm.
having bumps, that's like because of the way we've been living, things are out of sync and out of, and so then it's like the undulations is helping. How does everything get back into a synchronicity again, or a synergy? And we recognize that we're all part of it, and we all have our um unique offering, if you like, or contribution.
Mm.
And that the more we get in sync with ourselves and the earth, and the deeper rhythms and impulses of the soul, then the more we're getting in sync with one another, I guess. And things can move really from survival to thrival.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the spaces that we're moving through, isn't it? And I think there's a lot of, we have been very impatient to have sameness, that if you don't fit in, then you're an outcast. And we are, I think that's going to be part of our process to come into as well, this acceptability, this allowance, this celebration of difference, that, there's many ways to do many things, and that we don't have to be in this, well, there's a word for it that isn't coming to me. That's the other thing, is that as we go through these processes of ascension, that's my experience, that we often lose words that we know and we can't find them. Going through a strong nervous system upgrade, and we've been going through some, well, what I think is frontal lobe, but anyway, brain upgrades. So it's, we're in this sort of constant spiraling up and moving in and out in this undulation, this flow, and we will do that all in different orders and at different rates. And so to just learn to be more in grace with that, to be more in the everything is perfect, through a strong nervous system upgrade, and we've been going through some, well, what I think is frontal lobe, but anyway, brain upgrades. So it's, we're in this sort of constant spiraling up and moving in and out in this undulation, this flow, and we will do that all in different orders and at different rates. And so to just learn to be more in grace with that, to be more in the everything is perfect right now as it is. There's a lot of undoing that needs to occur in terms of our systems and structures, and especially in terms of our programs and conditions. We've been programmed to think in particular ways that don't actually serve our new way of being. And so we don't have to call those wrong either, but they don't belong anymore. And so we'll have to be okay with letting those go and finding new ways with that. It's a lot of change, and humans get wobbly with change. So that's why coming back to the breath and being in present moment can help us deal with that change, as this the sort of incremental stepping through. So there's that part, and then there's this, I want to say that this is dear to my heart and my work with Gaia, is this recognition that we are all a part of this connection to self, connection to one another, connection to nature, connection to the planet, and that it's a big step for humanity as a collective to recognize that we are not the kingpins here, that this is not a hierarchical structure where nature gives way to us. This is a symbiotic experience that we need to come into in a greater way. So, we'll navigate that also. So it's, we're just in this, I want to say, this softly space where a lot of people want to race ahead to the finish line, and some people will. But this is all about a collective movement of humanity, so the planet can return to a higher dimensional frequency. And in so doing, we return to our rightful, I think this is beautiful, to our rightful place in the galaxy. So as for me, with my work with Gaia, I am showing that is the living library of the universe, that is an intergalactic destination.
What do you mean is the living library? Do you mean the earth itself?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The Earth itself is the living library of the universe, and it's an intergalactic destination point, and we work in this higher way of being. So we've got all of those things to learn, those higher principles and practices, but it's this in connection and symbiotic movement with everything on the earth, with all of nature, from the seeds to the giant trees, from the air to the water to us to the animals. And when we move to that level of harmony, the do no harm will be on all levels. It won't be just us not doing harm. It will be the animals not. We won't have any predatory. It's hard to imagine. But I've
Not
been
so much,
shocked.
not so much if you live in New Zealand, but maybe in other countries like Australia.
Yeah, that's right. So I was showing, a long time ago, I had this vision where I was sitting on the edge of a lake, and beside me was a mouse, and beside the mouse was a lion. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then this being came up out of the lake. So you could call her the lady of the lake or the goddess of the lake. And she came up out of the lake, and she said to me that this is what will be, that we will be able to sit beside one another in safety, and that, yeah, that whole, the lion won't be eating the mouse. So there's that aspect. And then the other aspect that I've been shown with the earth is, well, peace. So a very profound experience I had, I remember talking to my father about it. I think I might have been about 18. And so in the night, when I was around that age, I used to walk the beach with Jesus. And I have a personal relationship connection to some of these beings. And
Which
one,
doesn't sound as far out as it used to. I think as the
no,
collective
so a lot
consciousness
of people will begin
has
to
shifted.
recognize
Yeah.
their sort of early roots connection, ancestral connections, through the bigger picture of who came to seed the earth, and those who came to save the earth, because the earth was on its descension into non-existence, really, into the two dimensions. So a lot of us came to the earth at this time on rescue mission.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember having this conversation. So
And just going back to what you said, if it's the Akashic record of the universe, it makes sense. It makes more sense of why the Earth is this planet that is, has this interest of many galactic beings and planetary bodies, and of the universe, that's why it's not allowed, it's not allowed as such, or it's not a preference for it to die or to be diminished, and
oh, yes, because
Dolores Cannon talked about that in the three waves of volunteers after World War II, and the potential for the nuclear weaponry to potentially destroy the Earth, and that had to be stopped. And again,
yeah,
that many people, and I definitely resonate with that. Three waves of volunteers coming in as souls to really help, as you say, kind of like a rescue mission, so that the consciousness could up level and shift and do the healing work, so that we could go from that descension to ascension and
mm,
open up to, as you talk about, these connections, that we're all connected in the symbiotic relationship with this earth, and recognize who we are and the impact of who we are on this planet.
yes, and that each of us is really the micro and the macro, so within, like, our cells to us, our bodies to the earth. And so we return to being the living library of the galaxy, the intergalactic or the intergalactic destination. And this is one other thing, the jewel in the crown of the universe.
Mm.
And so we actually have a shift. So we shift further into the photonic belt. I've been shown a lot of aspects of ascension over the last 10 years or so. And one of them is that we get slightly sort of shunted. We get a bit of a nudge, and we have a reorientation. So we have a north-south reorientation because we've been taken off balance. So that happens. We've had this inversion as well. That's already occurred. Because everything is upside down, inside and inside out. So we're now in the return to the original divine organic blueprint, soul template. That's as individual, that's as planet. but yeah, we come back to that place, and so we'll have so humanity will begin to understand that that they're not the only species in the universe.
Yeah.
And then
So just for any, like what do you feel has been the game, the game plan to be on this earth, to go into this deep separation identity, to feel cut off from the rest of the universe, and to kind of, I guess, reboot from a very limited knowledge of oneself, and to have that learning and that growth, and to move through polarity and duality and lifetimes and incarnations and karma. Like what's it all about?
well, I suppose you could see it. I'm trying to think what the games are called. Those the ultimate warrior, or the ultimate game. What is it that people do where they are in mud and they're going under
Like
top of
boot camps, or like
like
obstacle courses.
yeah, but to an extreme level. So you're in extreme conditions and it's freezing cold and you're in the water and you're covered in mud and you're having to climb over an obstacle that's 3 meters tall and all of that kind of thing. It's like that to the extreme. So we came here, if you like, yeah, I hadn't really thought about it until just now, but as this extreme challenge. Can we return to source, having been cut off from source? Can we do that?
Mm.
And so we came
And
here.
what comes up as you're saying all that is like my hubby doing the endurance riding, but it's in those extreme conditions that he also gets to tap into something deeper within himself, and potentially discover a more expansive potential or possibility that wasn't necessarily there before, because he hadn't been challenged enough, we'll say. So it was the challenge that brought out that more expansive possibility. It may or may not do it. And I think it's a good analogy for Earth, because we come
Very
as
good analogy.
souls, and we
Yes.
may or may not rise to the occasion, or it may take a lot longer, and we may get stuck for a time. And I guess that's one way of explaining maybe getting caught in karmic cycles. Or there's right, I'm done, and dig deeper, and whatever it is. Or collectively there's more light to shine on more expansive potentials. And it's like the 4 minute mile. It's like it is possible. It is possible. You can unravel these patterns and these conditionings and these programs. It is possible to create your life as that you can tap into your imagination and your creational abilities. You don't just have to live by the book of rules that you got handed down from your parents or culture or the educational system or whatever it is. There is another way. And then each person, it's up to them if they're willing to really open up and embrace that, or not.
Yeah, that's right. And so we've come from being in very dark, the medieval, from those very lacking in light, lacking in love, total survival. A lot of people were in total survival. The extremes were, well, probably not dissimilar to now, except that now we are really in this time where we can access enlightenment, and whereas it wasn't really possible except for the very exceptional. But now this is possible, this is achievable, this is doable, this is here now on our, in our immediate, on our plate. And
Yeah.
Steve's adventure cycling, that is such a, well, and walking as well, I guess. Well, because he had to walk and carry his bike for some of those things. But, that's a really good example, because here he is in his masculine form. And so he has spent a lot of time in his deep contemplation or focus, as he's been having to find ways to do things that haven't been done before, in ways that haven't been done before, in terms of his equipment, in terms of his body, in terms of his mindset, coming across weather conditions that weren't anticipated, and being very alone in that. It makes us dig deep. It makes us be resourceful. And so he's done all of that. You think about all of that that's happened with his mind, with his mindset, with his programming. And now what's happened? He's been bundled off to now do the work in his heart, because all of a sudden, that was his next phase. And so this, it's a pretty good analogy with where humanity is at, what he's doing, and especially where the masculine in our world are at. So the masculine are being invited, and that invitation can come with some provocation, some push and shove, really, if there's a lot of resistance to come in.
I want to go back to that in a minute, Sharron. I just want to acknowledge something just because it came to me earlier. But the dark ages, and and even what kind of you shared within the session that you had with me as I was going through heightened levels of what felt like very excruciating levels of pain that I have not experienced in my body. Overwhelming, and yeah, what came to me was like, in that cutting off from source and that connection, like the desperate ways that people went to, the desperate extremes to try to have some semblance of connection or power, or yeah, I mean, from this perspective, we can start being fascinated by it. Obviously, it's very disturbing, really. But but now it's like, oh my golly, how much has been learned, and let's not do that ever again.
Yes, well, I don't believe it's ever going to happen again. I believe this is the end part of that game. But you think about why did that happen? Why in the early times, the farmers used to speak to the weather. They used to speak to the sun. They used to speak to the sky. And they used to speak to the waters. They would call in rain for their crops. They would call in sun for the harvest. They would, call in whatever they called them. They would do that, and then the intercessories came, didn't they? Those, oh no, you can't do that anymore. You have to come here for that. You can't talk to
But
God.
even like the Aztecs, it was the Aztecs or the Mayans, or like I don't know all, but like the sacrifices, sacrificing children or maidens or whatever it is to the gods, to try to be in their favor, so yeah, it's all these different pathways, I guess, that the collective went in, or different collectives went in, but I guess it was all exploration on one way or another to collapse those timelines so that we don't have to
Yeah, well,
revisit.
yeah, I guess there's a lot of ways of viewing it. You could also view that as that was about wrestling or wresting back control from the people. We can't have people doing their own connection, because the the church, which you can go back to the temples, and go back to the temples in Egypt, for example. That was all very monetary based. So it was that, well, if we have more than one temple, we can have more priests, we can have more money, we can have more accumulation, because people will have to go to that temple to pray for protection, and have to go to that temple to pray for health, and that temple to pray for abundance, and that temple to pray for being fertile. So the Egyptians had that pretty well sorted, and then really the following on from that has been the other churches that have come through the various sort of sections of society and geographical regions, and yeah, these big gods, and some of them are big and powerful, and the pagan gods, they have played a big part in a lot of the historical genealogy of the indigenous in all of the lands. So the Mayan, the Maori, the Aboriginal, the indigenous, Native American, the African. So they had pretty decent ways of managing all of their connections to source and God, and that was coming, and they were punished for that, because they can't have people not doing it in this way that suits the protagonist, really. Anyway, that was a bit off
Like,
track.
I
It's
mean, just
been a big part in our world.
yeah. I am kind of simplifying, perhaps maybe oversimplifying, but I guess the way I see it is that the ego, the separate identity, which is needed, it seems to be, for physicality, for the physical realm to have the experience, for spirit to have the experience, this ego construct, or for individuality. And yet it seems like it's that ego structure at the same time that can get so caught up in the material and so kind of drawn out from the center that it gets into this erroneous ideas and beliefs, or pompousness within itself, that it needs to control and mastermind these ideas, or into these entrapments of thought, to give it some semblance of power and recognition, and I guess holding on to the physical, um because of the fear of annihilation, or the fear of death, or the fear of whatever it is, because it is its realm. Like, the physical is the ego's realm, right?
Oh, yes,
um
we need
yeah.
our ego. I mean, our ego is a representation of our personality.
Mm.
So that's our point of difference in many ways. The world would be pretty boring if we were all the same. And so we've come here for that experience. It's about what runs the show. And so the ego has run the show, and the ego has been programmed by those who say the thou shalts. So, thou shalt give money to that, and thou shalt behave in this way, and thou shalt do this, be this, operate in this way. All of the thou shalts, they've been programmed into us over time. So now we're deprogramming from that so that we can, have our beautiful personalities and our likes and dislikes and our interests and the things that don't interest us, but we're driven by our internal desires to fulfill in a different way and from our heart space, and to be living in peace and living in that loving, joyous connection to one another and to nature.
Mm. And as you're speaking, what's coming through is that awareness of, rather than the either or, the this or the that,
Mm.
um moving into that more neutral or middle pathway of the heart, and the spirit, and through embodiment, so that it can hold the polarities or the contrast of life, and hold each person in that diversity, rather than needing to make somebody right or wrong, or good or bad, in
Yeah,
that
right.
more dual way of thinking. Yeah.
Mm.
And so these, a lot of what's coming down, the deconstruction, is what was created, in the image of really the ego and separation, and what's wanting to come online, and what is coming online is this transition into what is more authentic and aligned, and for the highest good of all, rather than just a few.
Yeah, that's right. And
Mm.
that duality in the wounding, the wounding that we have taken on in our cellular bodies that have been there through lifetimes, that has been in a part of our contract with self, really, to that is how we become more whole. So we recognize our wounding, and sometimes we recognize it because it's wounded again and again and again and again and again until it gets so big that it can only be dealt with. And that's part of our growth, is to learn to deal with our wounding, to come back into wholeness, to um, be on that journey. And then the other, that duality, that left right, that right wrong, all of that is part of our learning as well, to be able to look at the balance in that those polar opposite ideas. They help us formulate where we sit with it and what we might want to do differently, because there have to be things that kind of become our internal propulsion to make change, and that the uncomfortable creates change, right?
Yeah. And if we're sitting on one side of the pole, um, then we can get stuck in the judgment of the other side of the pole. And so, that's where I see, like, older, what's called older souls, but it's more experienced in these different polarities, so they can eventually find that equilibrium, even though that can be challenging if you've had a lot of deep experience in a lot of the woundings, as you said, or the disconnect or the separation. But then the mastery, the mastery is how to reconcile these seemingly opposites so that you can find that they are actually complementary, or find that place of where they can actually collapse together and again create that unified field of awareness, which has, you know, so much compassion for the human journey, and has the
And
wisdom
ourselves.
also.
You know, we need to have compassion for ourselves.
Yeah.
We're so trained to drive ourselves along and to not be forgiving of self. So, you know, that to me, that forgiveness of self is a big part of where we're at now, that acceptance of self, that allowance of what's coming and what is, and then that forgiveness. Because we've all, well, you know, I believe that we've all done the whole gamut of things, really.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
I,
but it's like it is from the higher self, at least this is my awareness. It's only like it's really, and maybe it's not needed anymore for like the next waves, but it's like it's through the experience that and bringing it to completion that you have the deep understanding that goes beyond intellect, goes beyond reading a book, goes beyond somebody else's theory, goes beyond somebody else's story even. But like it's such a embodied, imbued, energetic frequency upload, you know, you could say, to the you know, to the soul memory bank or the cache that has the absolute knowingness. And I feel like that's what gives so many of us such an acute discernment as well, because we, you know, because you just recognize certain patterns or frequencies and you're like, nah, I don't need to go there, because it's like I've already danced in that, and I've concluded what I need to conclude, and I've squeezed, as the analogy of squeezing all the juice out of it. And so, you know, this real readiness to really shift into this, we call it new consciousness, new light, new creation. um and yeah, with I guess the energy, if you like, or the frequencies of what that deeper desire is now. That deeper desire is from a place of middle path, in harmonizing the polarities, the dualities of an old consciousness, and now how does that blossom and bloom into this new consciousness creation for humanity, and we call that new earth, or you know, whatever names that wants to put on it. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. But hey, I'd love to hear a bit more about what you're talking about. Go back to what I said if you like, or moving into this divine masculine, because I know that seems to be something that your work is around, bringing more awareness and more light and more acknowledgement to the role of the divine masculine.
well, just let me go back to something you said before about this recognition, is that the recognition only comes after a lot of disconnection. So there's still a lot of people in the world that are in that disconnection, that cognitive dissonance, if you like, that not recognizing that they've had these past experiences, or the acknowledgement that these things sit within them. And so that disconnection will be a place where still many of humanity, are at. So there'll be that contrast will be coming up for people, so they can resolve and heal that back through time, space, and dimension, and then, you know, moving into the next. So
And to counterbalance that, you can see like there's so much more conversation around trauma. So that seems to be a way that is counterbalancing it, and so many modalities now, and you know, science backed, and you know, a lot more information to help people at least have some more self-awareness around the impact of their past traumas or unresolved emotions or unacknowledged aspects and so
well,
forth.
that's what this light is doing. So the light that's coming from the sun is arousing that in people. It's we're going through enlivenment. That's an exciting aspect. And we're having our DNA washed and tickled, if you like. And this comes with in order.
Does tickling look like intense nerve pain?
Well, I guess that's a part of the receipt of that. but people being like the cells, the cells have to be cleaned out in order to receive the light, and the cleaning out is the healing. And so that brings up the wounds, that brings up the memories, what Gaia calls the rememberings, the cellular remembering. So, that's all part of our process before we can step into this next part. But there's a sense of that some of the work can now be done in a collective manner, so that everybody doesn't have to do everything. But
Tell me a little bit more. What does that look like to you? That shifting from the individual to the collective, is that like a collective acknowledgement, like again through trauma and through more and more people with the willingness to do the inner work or to acknowledge what needs to be acknowledged?
Well, it showed up to me as as part of this quantum kind of arrangement, really, that in order to speed ascension up right now, it might not be, I might interpret this incorrectly, but how I was shown it is that the little bit of healing that I do, that little bit of healing, that I'm doing that on behalf of the entire of humanity. That other people don't have to do that bit of healing. This little bit of absorption of gift, of something that I can do well, I, in doing that, make that accessible to others in humanity. So it's like each of us doing this little tiny component on behalf of the collective. So that's in terms of releasing, healing, wounding, and then coming into the higher, the miracles, the magic, the gifts, the psychic abilities.
Yeah, and like, just I can see that for myself, like, being in this situation where really I have the opportunity of space and time and location and facilities to be with whatever it is that I'm being with, on behalf of myself and the collective of whatever I'm saying yes to as a soul to transmute and reconcile within myself. And I can see how, the divine plan of, now I'm not running a retreat or I'm not running anything that's majorly urgent. That there is this space and time to be with something on behalf of something greater than my own personality self. So
Yeah.
just relating to what you spoke of, and I feel like there's many of us that we're sitting back and we are really doing this big work, and we may never really be acknowledged for it, and it's not necessary, but on the soul level, that there is that greater vision of intentionality, I guess, and contribution that is known on a deeper level, not necessarily in the personality level.
Mm. Yeah, so that's the sort of space that we're in. We're in this, turning it around, and everyone has different roles to play, and that not everyone will be doing it consciously.
Yeah.
But we're on the way, and we also had this. We've had two now. We've had two kind of big releases of shadow. So I don't remember the day, but sometime in the last week, I think, there was this. The sense of the ugly, the sense of the ugly, the sense of the dark moving through, and that's what I was showing, that on that day, or during that sort of 24, 36 hour period, that a third of the shadow was being released, roughly a third of the shadow was being released from the planet. And so that meant at that point that we're more light now than dark as a planet. So we're well on the way. And so all of this light that's coming now is speeding up this whole process. There's another. I don't think I got back to the story with Jesus, but I was sitting on this, in my vision, I was sitting on a grassy hill with Jesus, and there was silence, and I said to Jesus, "What is that?" And he said, "That's peace in the Middle East." And to me, that was profound. So I knew that there would be a point in my lifetime where we would have peace on the earth, and that's where we're coming to.
When did
Um,
that happen, Sharon? Like what, can you remember the year?
um, I think I was 18.
Right, 18. Okay, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, I think so. I was living at home. Um, yeah, so I knew that we would come to that place, and we really need to come to peace for some other things to occur in terms of our resource as well. But yeah, we are returning to that place. So we're moving further into the photonic belt. That's all part of what we're receiving now, the photons that are coming in, carrying these codes that our bodies are receiving. That's why people are tired. Our cells are being turned inside out, upgraded, our whole system. We're really going and moving into what I call human 2.0. And so that's gone, we've gone through a lot of processes with that. We're not complete.
Yeah.
But
Light
we're
2.0, love 2.0, totally up leveled, upgraded, expanded.
Yeah, but in a very physical way, even though that happens in the energetic, it's happening in a very physical way. So we're getting physical eye upgrades, we're getting energy, we're getting heart upgrades. All sorts of things are happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so back to the divine masculine. That was your other question.
Can actually, just while you're on the physicality, can I just pause you? You mentioned something about changes in the frontal lobe. Do you want to add that in as well, or anything else about the physicality? Because I'm really fascinated how I feel like this light body, or this more soul knowingness and energetics integrating down, and the physical rising up, and how they alchemize together. And I know you're saying in the washing and the cleaning of the cells, and to clear out the density, and how so it's like, yeah, how do they fit, how do they integrate, how do they complement?
Well, it's too much to go into today, but
Do a
the
video on it.
yeah, I have done there's a video on my channel, and I'm going to do an updated version. But essentially our brain, the frontal lobe, I'm showing our frontal lobe, we how could I put it? Some of our short-term memory that's held in the frontal lobe is being released to consciousness. So we'll access collective consciousness for some of that. And then the other is for higher function. So it's going to come in for higher function. And so I don't know exactly what that is, but some of it's to do with our psychic abilities. So that's psychic vision, that's clairvoyance, that's telepathy. And so a lot of people are starting to develop those or notice those in the dream time. But we will become more telepathic as humanity. And yeah, so I've been showing pretty weird things about our eyes, so I'll tell you that. But so I've been showing that our eyes begin to have can be functioning like a very expensive camera lens, and that one eye can have like a long telescopic function, and the other can have a camera function that actually is like that's a bit strange. It's like it can take a photograph or a movie, and you can see one of the eyes. I believe we're going to be able to have like a split vision. We'll be able to see like right here in front of us and something else going on. Like we can run a movie of what's been going on in the day, and then see something in another perspective. It's those kinds of things.
That's
Um,
definitely that's definitely shifting out of linearity into quantum
yeah,
vision.
yeah, that's right. And so a lot of people at the moment are having hearing upgrades, ringing in the ears, and so that could be like celestial notes, but it could also be this improved clear audience. Everyone will have at least
And for
one.
anyone who's freaking out, they're hearing these tones, frequencies ringing, and they're calling it tinnitus, and afraid of what's happening within them. What would you say to those people?
I would say go and get it checked medically so you know that it's not that. And if you are sure, then you won't need to. You'll just be in the awareness of it. But yeah, a lot. We're going to go through, I'm showing out where we will be taller. So if you think about, as I'm showing, it's like the cushioning between each vertebrae. So between each vertebrae, we even if you think this 1 millimeter, if you think 1 millimeter between each vertebrae, that makes each of us 33 millimeters taller. And we'll have the facility. Yeah, that's about an inch and a half, I guess. We'll have that facility to be taller. We're having coding coming up through our spinal fluid, through that aspect of our spine. So that comes in as like this golden light, and it comes in and down and then up. So it's doing both of those, and that's part of our activation. And that's part of our return to Christ consciousness. There's a lot going on. But being grounded is really important at the moment, being connected into the Gaia, being connected into the earth, because we're the micro and the macro. So as we do that in our body, the earth is doing that in her body. And then we're connecting through that way as well. So we're about to kind of have some, well, I don't know what to say next, really. I'll stop there. I'll stop there because I was about to launch into something else, which is just way too big to talk about. But anyway, we're having
Instead of that, can you just introduce people to the painting behind you, Lady Gaia, and your communications with her, just to give a little reference?
Yeah, so in 2016, I began to see Gaia in my morning meditation. And so I was told that I was to paint her, which I did scoff at because I thought that was ridiculous. Anyway, I did paint her. This is a print of the original, and the camera is not really focused for her, but she is the goddess, the ascended master lady Gaia. She is the being that oversees our planet, and she sits in a cave. That's how she presents to me. She sits in a cave in the center of the earth. The cave is of emerald and of amethyst and of sapphire, and you can see that there's a spiral. That's ascension. That's our ascension spiral. So this is I'll move it over, but so this here is the planet. So she's in the planet and holding the planet. This is the ascension spiral. This is the upgrade of DNA. And the helix and the waters of this is the emotional pond for the healing of humanity. And she sits with the spherical crystalline flower of life in her heart. So it's pretty interesting, really, isn't it? Because that's 2016 I painted that, and here we are, we're amidst that now. The sort of details of that we're amidst, where we're having our DNA upgraded, we were in ascension, both planetary and human, where we're becoming crystalline. That's her, she's crystalline already. We are becoming crystalline. To me, that's the Christos, the crystalline, the crystallined, the crystalline in the blood and the fluids. That's us, as well as becoming of the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is the golden light, but it's the Christ as well, but it's the Christ as in the Kryst, the Christ, the Christ. So that's the crystal.
What's the difference when you spell it with K?
That relates to the crystalline. We're becoming crystalline. So we're moving from being carbon-based to being crystalline. Our atomic structure, our molecular structure is changing from being
And I mean, again, I'm just simplifying, but really, ultimately, does that just mean more light? We're embodying more light codes, more light.
Yes, but as a carbon-based being, we couldn't do that. So that's been this gradual process where we've been releasing and being purified so that we can hold.
And that's why it's this incredible alchemical process ascension, really.
That's right.
Turning lead into gold, carbon into crystalline,
That's right.
yeah, Christus, yeah.
Yeah, so every body and everything becoming more light based in this process. So that's why people's bodies are tired, because on a molecular cellular level, we're receiving more light, we're being purified, we're turning inside out and becoming crystalline.
That's all.
That's all. So
What an adventure, a life like no other, that's for sure.
absolutely,
And what
yes.
does the divine masculine have to do with it?
Well, the divine masculine is beginning to, to me, the divine masculine has been holding up the matrix, and I don't mean holding up. I do mean holding up. I'm just referencing it, them being like holding it up. They've been holding it up. So they have shown up to me as this has been the process. They've shown up really as the pillars.
And this one, just to clarify, showing up means for you clairvoyantly, would you say? In your inner sight, inner
Yeah, well, I am very
astral
fortunate
traveling?
to be gifted with probably all of the clairs. Um, so I both see it, I hear it, I'm showing it, I'm traveling through it. I'm
Feeling it?
yes, feeling it, and I'm in it.
Yeah. So you're in it. You're knowing it. So
I'm in
claircognizance
the
as well.
knowing of it. I'm hearing it from Gaia. I'm being shown it. So it's, so I can
Your
see and
physical body is in meditation when you're dropping in and you're connecting with with this information.
sometimes.
Is that correct?
Yeah,
Sometimes.
I can drop into that space pretty quickly
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Um, so the so I was what? How can I say this quickly? The divine masculine has essentially, you could equate them with the matrix. So they have really been like the pillars holding up the matrix, and they have been doing that. I believe the masculine, or the divine masculine, has been holding that space whilst the divine feminine rise. So the divine feminine have led the way into consciousness, because the divine feminine are in that flow, they're in that higher awareness, they have that greater access to higher consciousness because of the way in which they're designed. And that now the masculine is accessing, or has been over the last few years, accessing their feminine self. So the flow of the feminine has been moving through the masculine, and that's been a part of the breaking down of the old programs. So they are really in this place now where their
So is the
heart.
same happening for the feminine, kind of embracing more of that masculine, for confidence and um, whatever's needed to show up on the planet maybe more strongly in their voices and expression.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's right. And the masculine part of the feminine holding the feminine. But just in terms of this feminine energy, it's the feminine principles of energy that we're moving into as a planetary organization. And so, even when in masculine form, we'll be embracing those um, principles of allowance, of nurturance, um, of holding, of surrender. Those will be the principles by which we run our new social mores, really.
What would you say to somebody who's concerned about the what's the word the diminishment, we'll say, of the masculine, like especially what's playing out mainstream?
That's an intrusion.
Mm.
Our the divine masculine are very masculine. They are extremely powerful, amazing beings who can move worlds, and so they are moving into, though, the consciousness that comes with the feminine flow, so that they can be more in their feeling experience, more in their sensory body, more heart centered, because this is our new way of being, to be living from the heart.
Yeah.
And so
Very
this
grounded, very purposeful, very focused.
that's right. and service to others. So we're shifting from being service to self to service to others. The divine masculine are in that. They're in that movement. We're shifting from being what was the other thing? I got lost in there. Head centered to being heart centered. And then we'll be working more collaboratively in the recognition of one another's strengths rather than trying to be one another. So all of these intrusions, the women's liberation movement, the women get out to work, the tightening of the purse strings that created an economic crisis for people to then have to leave their children in the hands of others to be raised. All of that's been part of that intrusion. So we will make you more compliant. So if you didn't fall into that trap, you're definitely a warrior.
And that's like initiating more the survival mechanism of just getting food on the table, getting your bills paid, so that so it keeps you out of the heart, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, if
Rather
you
than
think about being a beggar, if you think about sitting as a beggar on the street and needing food, you're not going to be concerned about global population. You're not going to be concerned about what's going on in the political arena. And so in a way, that's what is, that you could see that as one of the games. But yeah, it's all about keeping us small. It's all about having us disconnected from source. It's all about getting us to be in or out of the recognition of how powerful we really are.
followers rather than self-thinking, self-organizing,
Yeah.
self-regulating.
Yeah, and not even followers, but obedient servants.
I was being more gentle with followers, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah.
well, we're sort of we're in the revealing of the truth. That's another big aspect that's happening within self and within the world. So something that Gaia showed me a long time ago, and I was quite intrigued because I was like, I wonder how this is going to show up. But she said that the molecular structure of a lie wouldn't be able to hold together in the new. And so this is this new frequency, this higher frequency, the false, the fake, the inauthentic. It cannot be held. And so that's why, anybody who's still got things to come up in their healing aspect, that will come up because it's not their authentic true self. That's why anything in the political arena will be showing the lies that have been perpetrated through the whole COVID aspect, which was, another last ditch effort to keep us down and to keep us under control. All of this is going to be shown now. That's going to be challenging for people. So those of us who are awake and aware and conscious, we will hold space for them. We will sit beside them and hold space for them to come to that realization. We don't have to be I believe we don't have to be the teacher. We lead by example.
Yeah.
And so we respond when we're asked.
I feel one of the shifts, at least for myself, and I think for many of us, is like up leveling this level of service as well. From pretty much as you said, like my previous role, I would be seen as a healer and to help, and but really stepping into this more expansive frequency and living it, as you said, like being an example and living joy and living these frequencies um in a grounded everyday way. So again, to be that example so others can go, and as we look out as well and see examples, so that we can really allow ourselves that permission slip, I guess, because
and people will look at you, Mary Jo, and they'll say, why are you so happy? What do you do in your life that keeps you like this? Because they'll see the contrast, and the contrast, it's this contrast that creates change. The contrast of, not being in well-being, of not being joyful, of being in lack. All of those contrasts are what drive or push or propel people to look for an alternative, to look for a salve and a solving, a way out.
yeah. And so as challenging as the challenges or the pain or the suffering or whatever people are going through, the flip side is getting to that point of asking a new question, wanting a resolution, a solution, willing to do things that maybe one wasn't willing to do previously, and to the degree that that's required is seems to be unique for each person, you know.
Yes, and
I feel like, because I hear a lot of, and I understand, and even with myself, it's like I understand we can do it easier, but then I also see myself where things have to come to a head, so to speak, before we're like, okay, all right, I got to do this thing that I've been meaning to do that I haven't booked because I know this is what's required and I've been putting it off. But now, it's like I can't be putting it off because now the consequences of that is actually too uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So it's like that little dance, which is, it's pretty educational, really, if we're up for it and open to it. But just, yeah, and just that realization with myself as well, that we really can do it easier. And if we can't, just to be forgiving for ourselves as well and compassionate.
yeah, and to, realize that there's a lot of components of this set
Mm.
of skills that we need to develop, and that it won't happen overnight. But we may have an ascension overnight, that's for certain. That's one aspect that may happen. I believe that we're doing it incrementally now, and part of the reason for that is because we've had some interventions that have stopped ascension or slowed down ascension. And so now, instead of it happening on this massive wave that could be easily changed, we're now doing this a little bit more incrementally. So there's, that's exciting. But we are, we don't have to be in this slavery, in this saving, in this lack mentality. That's what we're programmed to be in, because that drives us to be obedient. And we are going to be living in a world where there is peace, where there is resource for all beings, where everyone will have rightfully, Gaia has told me this a long time ago, that every sentient being, so that's every breathing, living being on the planet, and that's plants and animals and insects and us, is resourced plentifully. So that's where we are coming to. I
Sounds
believe
like heaven, Sharon.
that's exactly what it is. It's heaven on earth. It's this paradisical way of being, and I believe that we'll be there by, and within the next couple of years, we're going to be living in that part of it, and then we'll be coming into some of the higher technologies.
Do you think I mean, I want, I'd love to believe that everybody could be living on that, but do you feel like it will be so, like the whole planet, or you feel like so, more and more people will be?
I think that there will be um, a sizable collective who are living in that within the next 2 years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that collective will, it's like gather the rest in. And there might be some who choose to, it's a choice, no one's forced to. There'll be some who have some personal, what would you call it, lessons that they've set up that they want to complete in that more three-dimensional way. There'll be, there are beings that aren't human. They're like the fill-in people. I don't know a lot about those. I don't see those, but I know
Or can you just call them the backdrop people, I think.
so
Yeah.
they'll go. They're not required anymore. So we'll be in the witness of things that seem like miracles because they kind of are, but it's because we're coming into that space where we will both see, perform, and receive miracles. That's the energy we're in. There's a lot of energy around everything to do with the 7 at the moment as well. So that's just I'm going to do a video on that. There's too much information around that as well. There's a lot. There's a lot going on for us internally, externally, on a personal level, on a family level, on a community level, on a country level, and on a planetary level, both internal and external. And so a lot of things are being activated to support us in this frequency shift as well, in terms of the known, unknown, hidden arrangements within the earth, the power points, the steeples, the pinnacles, the pyramids. All of those are connected internally and externally now, and there's an energy running through those, so that energy will be amped up as we get faster in our vibration.
Yeah, as within, so without.
Within, so without, yeah.
So with that, as we close out, anything else that you'd like to share? And would you be open to just taking us through a little guided journey to help to, yeah, just ground and connect and
Sure.
support whoever may watch this and tune in or listen to it?
So we'll do this little exercise in a moment, but my closing thing to people is to say to find peace. Find peace and ease in your heart and in the day, and know that it's all going to be fine. It's just new. We're just in this new and exciting place. So if you think back to perhaps when you first started school, and that first day at school, everything seemed big and unfamiliar, as well as the people, and all of a sudden there were new ways of doing things, and some of it you didn't understand. Well, that's where we're at now. And remember that you're probably okay by the end of the first week. You know, you're probably like, oh yeah, I know where the toilet is, and I know what I have to do to get there, and I know that we do art on that day, and I know that I'm allowed to play outside, and I'm not allowed to be in that area, and you know all of those sorts of parameters. That's where we're at now. That's where a lot of humanity is at now. We're finding our way with this new way of being, and you can do it. You can do it. You're resourceful, amazing. You're actually more amazing than you realize. And we've been programmed to believe that we're small, and we're not, and you are not. So,
I feel like asking you just to, what would you say to people who are really with the whole technological advancement in AI and how to navigate that? I mean, it's probably the same thing as the first day at school because this is, this is so much new that we're being presented with,
I
and
would say
how do
to
we
maybe,
navigate?
I would say that some people may choose to go down that route, and that some people will choose to not. So we're at that choice point, really. Some people can begin to live in a world with AI to the extreme point, and then there will be those of us who choose to use AI as a tool rather than a way of being. So, if people can walk down that road, I would say that's a choice. People can walk down that road, but they will no longer really be human. That's another push. This whole transhumanism, the trans thing. It's interesting, isn't it? Because we're going through a lot of trans things. We're going through transmigration. We're going through transformation. And then we've got all these trans things that the woke agenda of transsexuality and the transition to the new and the transition in terms of the monetary system. Or there's this.
They're like the ego version, like the wounded ego or the separate ego, or the ego that's trying to control this ascension. It's like, okay, I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to do it my way. I'm not going to go with this ascension, but I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to hijack some of these concepts and invert it really, and to kind of muddle the water, so to speak.
Yeah, so we can do it in this organic, authentic way, or we can do it in this AI way. And I want to say that if you choose the AI way, that's your choice. But if you choose the AI way, you're really giving up your humanity.
And really,
Ultimately,
what you're talking about with the AI way is actually bringing more technology into the body, really. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, yeah. Also, before we do this little meditation thing, I just want to say to people, I have a YouTube channel, and I bring through information from Gaia every few days, and it make a post of some description most days, but do videos probably usually about 3 videos a week, and so you can.
I'll add all the links and put them up
So
when I'm
pop
editing.
in there, and it's a really nice community. And then I have artwork, and at the moment it's on sale. So if you go to sharronmartin.com, you can buy your own print of Gaia. It comes in a variety of sizes, and there's a few other prints on there to do. There's the Temple of Abundance is on there if that's of interest to you, and that relates to the 9th ray and relates to prosperity, abundance, and joy. And then there's this, which is the energy of Mother Mary, and there's a few others on there. But
And your website is called?
Is on sharronmartin.com. And to just know that it's all fine. It's all really good, and look for the good. Look for the good. All right. So here we go. So roll your eyes up to the ceiling. That fools your brain into going into alpha, and close your eyelids. And take a breath. In through the nose, deeply into the body. Following it down into your belly. Let it swirl around in there, and then breathe out through the mouth. Relax under your sit bones. Place your hands on your heart. And now breathe into the space behind your hands. And just feel the energy moving, streaming out of your head, down your neck, down your throat. As you're breathing softly, all the energy is leaving your head and coming into your heart space. Feeling your heart warming. Feeling your heart moving into a flow, an infinity symbol flow, left to right. Feel the warmth, feel the light, feel the movement. And now feel a flow front to back. Infinity symbol. And that's moving, flowing. Now put 2 diagonals in. So now you have a left to right, a front to back, and 2 diagonal infinity flows. Infinity symbols flowing, moving, all meeting in that point in the middle. You can call that the 0 point. And now duplicate that and place it on another plane where the center meets in your heart space. So at that 0 point. And then place it on another angle and on a 3rd angle. So you are sitting with this star-shaped series of infinity symbols in flow. Left, right, front, back. Southwest to northeast, etc. All in flow through 0 point. Feel the energy of that in your heart space. Make it bigger. The sphere is all the way across your chest and protruding out the front and out the back. Feel the softness of that. Feel the tiny frequency. It's so fine. See it filled with a soft mist of pink light. Make the sphere of the infinity symbols into gold. Now add in a mist of pale green light. And now a mist of gold. Now within this space you have the golden light of the Christos, the Christed light, the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is representative of the flow of the light that comes through from God. And that be whether you are a practicing Buddhist or a Sufi or any other religious component, it's all the same, in my view, the same energy, with a different name, a different title. Moving through this healing light of the green, the pink light of love, the golden light of consciousness. Filling your heart space, filling your higher heart space, and up into your throat. Bringing healing to your ability to both see and feel truth. Both give and receive love. To be in the awareness, opening and development of the Christed consciousness. The highest place. Feel the warmth of that, the tingling of that. Notice the tingling in your feet. And allow that energy to drop down through your body, from your heart now, down your legs, into your feet, into the earth. Imagine that you are sending down great tap roots or spikes deep into the earth. This energy moving down into the planet, impacting the inner earth beings, the planetary crust. You feel the peace, the ease, the knowing that all is well. Particularly feel that connection that you have, and invite that energy from Earth herself to now come up through your feet, into your ankles, calves, shins, up to your knees, through and around your knees, washing away any of the old stories, up through the thighs, flowing through the buttocks, the womb space, the creation space, the pelvis, and through the spine. Feel a sparkling infusion in your spinal fluid, your spine stretching. You might notice activation in the shoulder blades. That's a wing activation. It's a DNA tickling, if you like. That's how it shows up to me. I'm showing that the shoulder blades you may have, they may show up with 3 different feathers, but that's another whole story. But this is an activation of your being, DNA that relates to your being. If you've ever been angelic or a giant bird from the ancient past or an elemental. If you feel tingling in there, it's likely to do with that. Moving up through into the occipital bone, firing through the brain and out through the third eye at the front, like an explosion. Imagine that you've got yourself standing in front of yourself, and I want to say, you say to yourself, I know you, I see you, I trust you, I love you. And then merge with that part of self. Smile. Take a long, deep breath. Back to the space where you are. Feel the tingling energy that's close to the skin. This is you enlivened. And open your eyes when you're ready.
Beautiful. Down in my solar plexus there, I could feel the empowerment of bringing that in. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sharon.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And just before we complete, can you just share a little bit about your sessions, if you are doing them, and yeah, maybe what people can expect or why they'd maybe book in with you?
Sure. So I am about to do a bit of an upgrade, rewrite about what I'm doing, but essentially I use all of my gifts and I attune into your body and see what's going on in your body and what might need to be cleared, purified, and healed. Any blocks that are there, and then this up leveling that comes with this higher illumination. So bringing that in, so you are in preparation for this new time that we are in the world, and then that kind of enveloping of self, that alignment of self, and then looking at what might come in terms of gifts and where your mission might lie and what that might look like. So it all depends on how much or how little there is to attend to in that first part. But that's the kind of work that I do, accessing your Akashic records, maybe bringing in past lives. There might be past relationships from this lifetime or past lifetimes that need healing and mending.
Inner child.
Yes, that's right.
Whatever is required, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So we're in a lot of Trinity energies at the moment. So there's a lot of work for many people to be done with that balancing of the masculine, feminine, and the holy child, or the golden divine child, and that movement between the like the head, the heart, and the body. That triangulation, the past, the present, and the future. Those are all the sort of triangulations that we're working with at the moment. So that, yes, and then, any sort of, there's a lot of lovely past life sort of key coding that can come as well in terms of the positions, places, beings that you may have been in the past. So that might be linking into Atlantis or into Lemuria, where there's a lot of Lemurian coding coming up at the moment. Yeah.
and the impact of that kind of coding for this
I
timeline?
think well, we need to clear. We need to clear from the past so that we can be in our more empowered, higher aspects of self.
Yeah, beautiful. Wonderful, Sharon. Thank you so much for taking this time to share your wisdom and your knowledge and your insights and your guidance. So, thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Yes, so let me just say, so you can go and book on my website. I offer 1 hour or 2 hour sessions, and you don't need to, you might have a focus. You can come with a focus, but you don't need to choose the modalities. The modalities that are listed are just all the modalities that are available for me to use. And yeah, connect into my YouTube channel, and also I have a Facebook page. And you can subscribe to a free newsletter that I send out sort of either monthly or bi-monthly, depending on what's happening. I think that's probably
Yeah.
all.
And you're pretty good. You're pretty regular. You seem to be pretty regular in your updates, one way or another, whether it's
Yeah, I
Facebook
do
or
something pretty much.
writing or video.
Yeah, I do something most days, but sometimes it's just a short paragraph, and other times it's an hour-long video.
Yeah. Wonderful. Appreciate and loving you for all your incredible work that you do in the world and for all the support that you give people like myself and others. So thank you so much for being you. Love, love, love.